Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the TCT podcast here on YouTube. My name is Gavin Campbell. Alongside me, as always, my two good friends, Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming. And today we have a very special guest, Donovan Fennell, all the way from Alaska. He's a corporal in the United States military. He is a Minnesota Vikings super fan, and he's going to help us out with today's episode. Donovan, welcome to the show, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, go ahead and getting on into it. Speaking of the Vikings, we got some NFL that we got to get to today. We're going to talk about the NFC North, that whole division, and how stacked and loaded the NFC is. And then we're going to finish up with some MLB. We're going to talk about the standings. We're going to talk about the playoff teams, what teams have a shot, what teams don't. Cale, go ahead and take it away, man.
All right, so seeing that Donovan is obviously a Minnesota Vikings fan, we're just going to kick it off with that. Tyson, I'm going to ask you this first. Last season, the Vikings were 13-3 behind Case Keenum and company, and they made a playoff push against the Saints. You know, they won that game, and they probably could have won the Super Bowl, in my opinion. But anyway, Tyson, I'm going to ask your thoughts real quick on the going into this season. How do you think the Vikings are going to fare?
Well, I love watching the Vikings play. They've got a phenomenal defense, especially their defensive backs. I love Harrison Smith. Dude's all over the field, hits like a Mack truck. Their defense, they didn't really do anything to regress on defense. Offensively, they didn't really do anything to regress either. They kept a lot of the same pieces. They did a lot of the same stuff. They did change quarterbacks, went away from Keenum, went to Kirk Cousins. Now, I know, Gavin, you like that, but...
I like that.
Yeah, over here, I'm not such a big fan. Case Keenum, he probably did have a once-in-a-career kind of season for him. But even if Cousins has that same kind of season, the Vikings will end very similarly. If he doesn't have a great season, if he has an average season, even subpar, I still see him going over 10 wins. But if he has a decent season or some kind of miraculous season like Keenum did, I see him easily going 12-4 or 13-3 again.
Absolutely. Going off of what Cale said last year, they had that miraculous win over the Saints in the playoffs. That Stephon Diggs catch is one of the greatest I've ever seen live happen, especially a walk-off touchdown. Rarely ever do you see that happen in the NFL.
One of the most exciting moments in NFL history that I've seen.
Absolutely. And you hate to see that happen to a rookie corner for the Saints. And was it Kilpatrick?
No, Sean Lattimore.
Lattimore, that's who it is. I mean, he's going to have to stick with that the rest of his life. But personally, I think the Saints had that in the bag. You know, Case Keenum pretty much pulled a rabbit out of the hat during that game, and more power to him. Went to the championship game against the Eagles, and they lost to the Super Bowl champions ultimately in the end. Do I think that they can repeat on 13-3? Probably not. I think that like Tyson said, that's probably a one-in-a-career type season for Case Keenum. Do I think that Kirk Cousins could lead the Vikings to maybe an 11-5, a 12-4 record? Absolutely. I think that, especially within this division, I think you have a lot of, I don't want to say subpar teams, but pretty average, above average teams in this division if you exclude Detroit, in my opinion. With that said, 12 wins, probably what they're looking at. I would imagine they could probably sweep 2 out of the 3 opponents in this division, but I think 12-4 is very realistic. Donovan, what do you think?
I think they do have a great chance. Now, looking at their schedule, they do have one of the tougher schedules in the league, playing the Eagles, defending Super Bowl champions, the Patriots, the Saints again. Green Bay's got Aaron Rodgers back. He's always hard. Not necessarily the Green Bay Packers in general, but Aaron Rodgers is usually the one that gives us a hard time, gives us a run for our money throughout the year. I just kind of want to look at some of Kirk Cousins' stats. I mean, I like him. I mean, I've always thought of the Redskins not as a great team or a bad team, but one of those teams that are just kind of there. I mean, they're good, but they're not great.
Yep.
Look at his stats last year. I mean, the man threw for 4,000 passing yards, and Minnesota hasn't had a quarterback like that since Dante Culpepper or Brett Favre. And
you consider Dante Culpepper up there?
No, I just consider. So, of course, Dante Culpepper, he had a wide receiver like Randy Moss to throw to.
Okay, right, that's right.
Just going off, like, Minnesota hasn't had a quarterback that has passed for 4,000 yards since those two.
Okay.
So, I mean, the past 5 years, we've had 7 quarterback changes throughout the year. I mean, starting with Bradford coming in during training, like a week or 2 before the season started, and then starting off to a hot start. And then last year, Bradford started for 1 or 2 games and then got hurt in case Keenum ultimately took over. But I mean, you look at Kirk Cousins and how he played against Minnesota last year. There wasn't a lot of quarterbacks that could just destroy our defense. Drew Brees, of course, won, but he's considered, I mean, I think it's easy to say that he's going to be a Hall of Famer in the future. No doubt about that. He's the most accurate quarterback in the NFL right now.
That's a very safe bet.
Yeah, but Kirk Cousins, I mean, he put up over 20 points against our defense. Not a lot of teams did that last year.
Now, real quick, I want to ask you a question here. Speaking of Kirk Cousins, me and Tyson have differed on this in the past few weeks here. I'm really big on Kirk. I like that. I know he doesn't. Can you please explain to Tyson why Kirk Cousins would be a great fit for the Minnesota Vikings offense and that the weapons they have on that side of the football?
All right, so for weapons, he's got Allen Thielen and he's got Stephon Diggs to throw to. Arguably, probably, for sure, they are the top 5 wide receiver duos of last year. Arguably, maybe the best wide receiver duo of last year behind Shushu didn't get hurt last year. It probably would have been Antonio Brown and him for sure. But with him missing those 4 weeks for suspension, they're easily the best duo. Minnesota during the offseason just added Kendall Wright. He led the Bears last year in receiving yards. I mean, that's not saying a lot because they had a lot of problems last year.
I knew he was going to throw a shot at me. I knew he was going to throw a shot in there.
But I mean, that's another key weapon for him. And then he's got Dalvin Cook. Last year, he was. I mean, I'm not going to say he was going to be like a rookie of the year, but I mean, he had just over 300 rushing yards in his first 3.5 games before he suffered from the ACL tear and missed the rest of the season. And now they've got him back. They've also got Latavius Murray still there, and then those 3 wide receivers, and then Kyle Rudolph, our tight end. I mean, he is second behind Gronk in touchdown catches and drops. I mean, so he's not like he's not a big name, but he definitely does his job and gets it done. So I think he has all the weapons to succeed and do great next year. Especially like last year, Kirk Cousins was sacked. What was it? It was 41 times last year. So, and that's compared to Case Keenum's. I didn't keep track of that, but I know he was sacked 41 times, and he was still able to throw for 4,000 yards. So I think he has all the weapons. He has a great offensive line. He's got a running game. He's got the wide receivers tied in, and he's also got the defense to help keep the offense off the field as much so he won't be as tired.
Right. Obviously, the defense is the staple of Minnesota, and now that they've kept that, they should be looking pretty good moving forward.
No, I don't think Kirk Cousins is awful. I don't think he's going to destroy the team and come in and go 9-7 or 8-8. I don't think he's going to completely destroy him like that. But you said he's got a great offensive line. Can you really consider his offensive line that great if they had to go through 3 starters last year because they couldn't block and got 2 of their starting quarterbacks hurt?
All right, so start off that, Teddy Bridgewater, he was already hurt coming in. He has a non-contact injury a year ago during the offseason. So he was just coming off an injury, so he wasn't in the best position to start. Bradford, that happened like week 2. I mean, some quarterbacks, like Kirk Cousins, for example, got sacked 46 times. Case Keenum last year was sacked 22 times, half the time, and he never got hurt. I'm not saying our offensive line is great by any means, but I don't really think the offensive line was a problem with our quarterback situation. It was just a bad deal. Sam Bradford got hurt. It was his knee.
Which he's hurt that knee in the past before, so a reoccurring injury is not common when you've had it before, especially playing a contact sport like the game of football. You get hit in the knee. If you've already had an MCL or an ACL injury, you're bound to have that happen again.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it was like week 2 where he ultimately sat out the rest. Well, the Case Keenum took over for the most part, and I just don't feel like our offensive line isn't great. I mean, Case Keenum still sacked 22 times. But Kirk Cousins has an offensive line that can protect him for half the amount of sacks, and still, like last year, he still passed for 4,000 yards, and he didn't have a wide receiver do it like he did last year and a tight end like that. So I don't know. I'm not saying offensive line is great, but it's definitely better than what he had last year.
So going off of that, Donovan, Kirk Cousins signed a 3-year, $84 million deal with the Vikings, obviously, and not only that, that $84 million is guaranteed. Is Kirk Cousins worth that amount of guaranteed money to you?
To me, I don't think so. I mean, he hasn't proved himself with our team. I mean, it's a different scheme, different players, different coaches. I guess only time will tell, but I know that the organization's hungry for a Super Bowl. They have all the weapons, and the only missing piece, I believe, is the quarterback.
Is it Super Bowl or bust with Kirk Cousins running this offense?
As a Super fan, I want to say it's Super Bowl. So I think they have what it takes to make it this year. So, yeah, I think they're going all the way.
Well, going off of that real quick, as you guys know, the little I know about the sport of football, Minnesota, if they had the right pieces, starting with quarterback last year, I feel like they could have beat the Philadelphia Eagles in that championship game. And am I wrong by saying that?
No.
They've taken the right steps this offseason to add the right pieces that they need, such as a quarterback, such as better offensive line, better wide receivers or tight ends that they've already had, and improving their defense on top of what they've already had last year. So I agree with him on that. I feel like that it's going to be Super Bowl or bust for Cousins this season in Minnesota, just basically for what he's got with that coaching staff.
Well, and let me add this. I think also with just the whole Minnesota Vikings organization for as long as they've been around and making it to the Super Bowl and making it to the championship game so many times and coming up empty time and time again, I think that kind of it stings, and I'm sure Donovan will attest to it, having that much success and coming up short that many times, you kind of just want it to be over. You just want that one ring that you can look back on and say, look, we've won our title, and if we don't win it again for a few years, even a decade, I'm cool with that. Just, it takes time to win that first one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, they have 20 playoff wins, most by any team in the NFL, without a Super Bowl ring. I mean,
well, I guess there you go, right there.
I mean, they've set themselves up for success for the next 5 years. The players that they've got signed for the next 5 years to keep them going. I mean, they have Kirk Cousins. They just signed Stephon Diggs to a 5-year deal. Eric Kendricks in the backfield. Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith. Like, all their big key players they have signed 5 years out. So, I mean, their front office is good at retaining their players. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion.
All right, Donovan. So going off of that, who do you think is the biggest threat within the division? Is it Green Bay? Is it Detroit? Or could it even be Gavin and I's Bears? Who's got the best shot for beating your Minnesota Vikings in the division this season?
As a team, I want to say the Lions. As a team, I mean, I'd say Green Bay Packers, but it's not the Green Bay Packers that beat Minnesota. It's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, without them, they're just as good as the Bears. But to be honest, it have to be the Lions. Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. Throughout the past couple seasons, I mean, he's proved that. He's got, countless times where he's fourth quarter run being down by a touchdown or more and bringing back and winning it. I mean, he's a great quarterback. He just needs the weapons.
Let me ask you this question. If the Lions last year, they went 9-7, and 4 of those 9 wins, they won the game coming back in the fourth quarter, which means they were down going into the fourth, and they came back and won it. Without those 4 wins, they would have been a team that was 5-11, tied for last in the division. Do you really think this is a team that can challenge the Minnesota Vikings, a team that had the best defense in the league last year?
I mean, I wouldn't say challenge. I mean, I look at our division, and I look at Minnesota as it's their division now. It used to be Green Bay's in the past, but I look as the team that has the biggest chance. And I look as the Lions, just because, like you said, yes, they would have been tied for the worst record in the division last year. But you look at those 4 wins coming back by trailing, and it just looks how hungry they are and like their determination. Like, they don't stop, they don't quit. And that was the thing with Minnesota last year. Like that game against the Saints, they had that game through the first half and I mean, it was looking good. And then they kind of relaxed, and the Saints brought it back on them, put them in that situation to where they had that Minneapolis miracle. That's something Minnesota has. They get up, and then they kind of take the back seat, and they had a really bad problem doing that last year, and that's something I hope they work on this year. But, like, Lions, their determination and their hard work, like, I feel like they have the biggest chance to being our biggest threat.
I respect that opinion. I think the Lions are always a team that's kind of there, even if they're not really there. They've got the chance to show up at any given week.
No, for sure.
That being said, I think Green Bay is the top dog in this division besides Minnesota. I think if anybody's got a chance, it's Green Bay. Lions we've seen, as we've talked about, in 2008 they went 0-16, in 2009 they went 1-15, and then in like 2011 they went 12-4. So they turn around very quickly, very quick 180s from worst to first. So I think Detroit could have a chance. Not in my opinion. I understand why you're saying that, but I see Detroit bottom of the division this year. But I think Green Bay's got the best shot, especially with Aaron Rodgers back. They haven't done a whole lot to help him, but they still went 7-9 last year with a very subpar quarterback. So I think with Aaron Rodgers back, I think Green Bay's got more than enough shot to try and reclaim the throne.
So going off of that, Tyson, you said that you had Detroit on the bottom of the tier. Who do you got above that? Who do you got? Do you got the Bears below them, the Bears above them? Where do you got the Bears at?
I think it's a little tricky. I put the Bears at 5-11 this year. 6-10. One win away from single digit losses. Now I think Detroit will end up somewhere around there, 5-11, 6-10, maybe even 4-12. But I see Detroit, Chicago fighting for the bottom. Green Bay will land in the middle, and I see Minnesota on top.
So going off of that, you stated that the Bears are going to have a worse record than the Lions, but at the same time, the Lions aren't going to have that much better of a record than the Bears. That being said, then Detroit, going off of what Tyson's saying, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, I don't think that Detroit's going to be the team to beat Minnesota at all. It's going to have to be Green Bay in their division. That's just the only way there is around it.
Well, and no, go ahead, Donovan.
Yeah, so when you ask me like which team, like as a team, I like the Lions.
Right. I'm
a Vikings fan, so I don't like the Packers.
Hey, something we agree on.
Nobody likes the Packers.
I look at the Packers as not a team to beat us. Like it's just Aaron Rodgers. I mean, without Aaron Rodgers, that organization is. I mean, they're trash.
That's okay. I mean, you can say it. You won't offend anyone here.
I mean, without Aaron Rodgers, the Packers are not. They're at the bottom. I think without Aaron Rodgers, when he finally retires, or if he has the same thing like with Brett Favre, ends up just going to a different team because they're looking to their future. I mean, they're going to be at the bottom of the division, and they've just gotten lucky with the past two quarterbacks they've had, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers being. They're going to go down as some of the greats.
Oh yeah, well they're both Hall of Fame bound. I mean, Brett Favre is just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. But realistically, Green Bay is probably going to come in second with Aaron Rodgers. But my favorite team besides the Vikings in that division would probably be the Lions. I just think they're overall decent team compared to the Green Bay Packers, where it's just really Aaron Rodgers that's leading that team.
For me, it's if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy. Green Bay is probably your best bet. That's just me. Yeah. If he can play all 16 games, he's going to wear that belt in the end zone countless times this upcoming year.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, I have to say it's Chicago. I know that I'm a biased fan, but I have to believe that with the offensive weapons that we've added, we've got Taylor Gabriel from the Atlanta Falcons, Allen Robinson from the Jaguars, Trey Burton from the Championship Eagles, along with a second-year quarterback in Trubisky who only got to play in 12 games last year, not the full 16. We've got a linebacker from Georgia and Roquan Smith, who hopefully will get him on the field here in the next few weeks once he signs his contract. I think you're looking at one of the next best Bears linebackers. Our secondary, it's been stout. They pretty much carried us to a top 10 defense last year. I think we were also top 15 in sacks as well, even though we lost Willie Young. I was sad to see him go. I still think this is a team that can repeat as top 10 in defense. And last year we were 30th in offense. We're not going to repeat that with the offensive weapons that we have. That's why I say I was looking at 9-7, possibly even a 10-6 record this year, just based off schedule alone.
Right, and I forget last year, a lot of their coaches, it was all like a new. I wouldn't say all like new coaching staff, but there was a lot of like unfamiliar like.
Yes.
Except for John Fox's bad system.
Oh,
right. And that's something as a Bears fan, I'll tell you right away that John Fox's system was not meant for Trubisky. I like Matt Nagy coming in from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's going to turn this around. I know that they have a tight connection, especially him being the offensive coordinator from Kansas City. That's going to really, again, help this offense with all the new pieces we have coming in. But, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears, like Tyson said, went 10-6, but I think it's very possible. There was 4 games last year we lost by 8 points or less. We could very well end up flipping that record and going 10-6. I think it just all depends.
So, guys, let's move on here. Going off of that, Case Keenum obviously had that heck of a season last year, carrying the Vikings, throwing him on his back when Bradford went down, like week 2. So, how do you think that the Broncos are going to fare this year with Keenum, back there taking snaps? Do you think they're going to make a push to the NFC Championship?
I would say that they're probably looking, and this is no disrespect to Case Keenum, it's just a division in which they play in. I mean, I think I said that I had them going 6-10, maybe 7-9 at best. But again, that's just my opinion. I think that defense, they've lost too many pieces. Von Miller's still there. He's a great linebacker, one of the best in the game. I just think they've lost too many pieces. Their wide receivers aren't there. Demaryius Thomas hasn't stepped up the past couple years since winning that Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. I don't know. I don't see them being a great team. I think they'll miss out on the playoffs in the AFC, but it might be close. I think they might be able to make a run.
Case Keenum, he's always been a backup quarterback, more or less, in the NFL. Not that he's a bad backup quarterback, but I think he's a backup for a reason. I think he's an average quarterback. For most of his career, he's been average. So I don't really see the Broncos going up a whole lot. I really do like Case Keenum. I think he can be great. He's got great moments, but he's not a franchise quarterback. For a career, he's an 86 passer rating player. That's run of the mill.
Right.
It's slightly above average. Like I said, he's a slightly above average quarterback, but he's still that. He's still a backup quarterback in almost any system. I think one good year, people kind of took it a little too far. So I don't see the Broncos going up a whole lot. They didn't really increase anywhere else. They lost a couple pieces on defense. I would like to see Keenum succeed, but I just don't see the Broncos doing very well again this year.
How about it, Donovan? How about your boy? How do you see him doing in Denver this year?
Well, I mean, so Case Keenum, like, for his whole entire career, he's always been competing for that starting role. He's always been under pressure to be his best. He's never started off as, like, he's never had, like, a season where he's actually put on the team, like, hey, you're going to lead this team. It's always been in competition with another quarterback.
Very true.
I mean, last year was the most games he'd ever played. He played 15 games. Ended the year with a 98.3 rating. Still, he was under pressure. I mean, he was leading a team that was expected a lot out of him. But then you look at on the Broncos, and of course, last year they weren't very good. Last year was the first year they had negative records since Von Miller was on the team, and he's easily one of the best. I mean, I don't think there's any arguing that he leads the most sacks in the NFL for, I believe it was, a season.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
I mean, his team looks at him as Von Miller the great. I mean, he's got leadership and for the defense, and their defense last year was not subpar. They were top 10 for yardage allowed, passing, rushing. The only thing they kind of like lacked in was the sacks and takeaways and everything like that. And I feel like Case Keenum and like the Broncos, they got a chip on their shoulder. I mean, their first losing record in forever. And I just feel like Case Keenum's coming into that position as a starting quarterback. I mean, last year he was a great leader in our offense. A very positive guy. Everyone liked him on the team. I don't know. Maybe I won't look at him as being great this year, but getting this year underneath his belt, if he does okay, like they have like a winning record, and this how to keep him around, I think they could become good together.
Either way you slice it, would you say that Case Keenum is an upgrade from Trevor Siemian or anyone else on that roster at quarterback?
I honestly believe so, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Like I said, he's always competed for that starting position, and now he's actually like, hey, you are the leader of this offense. You are the quarterback. So I think he's definitely an upgrade, yeah. So
going off of that, Donovan, I want to get your opinion or your bias. I don't know what the correct word is for that, but anyway, who's your favorite player, or statistically, who's your favorite player on this Vikings team, this Viking squad coming in up for next year?
Easily, without doubt, it had to be Adam Thielen.
Did you have a breakout year this year, or was it the year before that?
So, I like him because he was undrafted. He was an undrafted free agent in 2013. And then week 12 of 2017, he was the first Minnesota wide receiver to surpass 1,000 receiving yards in a single season since Sidney Rice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, he wasn't drafted. He came, and he's from Minnesota. I mean, he comes from there. Like, he's he stayed there. He didn't go anywhere else. Like, he got signed by Minnesota. He came in the league with something to prove. He was unsigned, and then last year he was, in my opinion, he was a great. Like, last year was his best year. He had 180 reception, 2,500 receiving yards, and 10 receiving touchdowns. I mean, last year was his breakout. I mean, he made the Pro Bowl, second team All-Pro. I don't know. I feel like he's just like kind of like the underdog. I mean, he came in undrafted, and then he is what he is now. So
I think that's a great pick for a player. Adam Thielen, like you said, he's a dog. We've been talking about dogs for weeks. That's what we like about a lot of the Illini guys we're getting. And you're absolutely right. Adam Thielen's just a dog. Like you said, he was undrafted, came in, absolutely performs every week. Had his best season this last year. It was great to see him finally break out. But he's had decent seasons, especially coming in as an undrafted guy. He had 1,200 yards last year. He had 960 the year before. And then in his first 2 seasons, I think he had like a combined 800. But he's a great receiver. But I touched on it earlier. Harrison Smith is my favorite player on the Vikings roster right now. Quick dude. He's not super huge. He doesn't have a lot of size over anybody, especially a lot of the receivers in the league now. But he is all over the field. And he's one of the kind of run-first safeties. He's a ball hawk. He's all over the field catching interceptions, doing what he's got to do, lots of deflections. But it's the stats you don't really see. He's always pressuring. They like to blitz him a lot. He's always pressuring quarterbacks, pressuring running backs, making people uncomfortable. And I really like to see a dude with this kind of motor like he is, stopping the ball at the line of scrimmage instead of hitting him 25 yards down the field. And he'll hit you and he'll wrap you and he'll drive you to the ground. He doesn't just try and dive at your ankles like most defensive backs do. So for me, it's Harrison Smith. I see a dude with a lot of heart, and he just loves being on the football field.
Yeah, and I can totally agree with you. Like, he's an awesome safety. I mean, there's not a lot of safeties in the league that will run from the backfield all the way up there and pressure the quarterback or running back successfully, really. I mean, in the Minnesota community, they kind of got named from it. It's Hitman Harrison or Hitman Harry. I mean, he hits hard. I mean, he's just
like a truck.
Yeah, and he's a small guy. He's not big or impressive, but he's fast and he can hit hard. So I can respect that pick for favorite player. He's an outstanding safety. Yes.
He reminds me a lot of like Troy Polamalu with less hair.
Yeah, without the dreads.
Absolutely. For me, I'd have to. They just traded him away. It was Case Keenum. Like you said, Donovan, he was a fighter for that starting quarterback position, and when he finally got his opportunity, that week 2 of the season, he came in and he showed up and he brought it. Not too much more to say about it. I mean, the record speaks for itself. 13-3, Minnesota Miracle, Stephon Diggs with the walk-off touchdown over the Saints, and I think when he threw that pass, somehow he knew that it was good. Just the way that he chucked it up there kind of reminded me of Eli Manning in that David Tyree catch in the Super Bowl years ago.
Bring up another harsh memory.
Yeah, but if I had to pick someone else that's still on this roster, I mean, it's got to be Stephon Diggs. I mean, I like a guy with some swag. I like a guy that's can run his mouth and then go on the field and prove it. Kind of reminds me of Randy Moss a little bit. What he's been able to do the past couple years. Obviously, not to the level that Randy did it at, or maybe to the vulgarity that Randy did it at some points, but
the savagery.
Definitely Stephon Diggs, I think, is a player to watch as long as he's on the Vikings and then afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, he goes out there and he proves his worth by his gameplay. I mean, a lot of these other wide receivers, you see them on social media a lot, and they're always posting videos, or you always see their workouts. But I mean, I follow Stephon Diggs on every social media outlet. He's a very God-fearing man. I mean, I don't know if that's your thing, but he's very humble. He loves his mama. I mean, he puts God first. He puts God first in everything he does, and he goes out there and plays his heart out. And I mean, he's got a lot of pressure on him now. I mean, they call it the Minneapolis Miracle, and they've got a whole entire wall dedicated to him and their new, I guess you want to call it museum, or within the stadium, their Hall of Fame wall.
Right.
But there's a whole entire wall dedicated to that play right there, and that's gonna be there forever. I mean,
he's etched in history now.
Yeah, it's in history. I mean, and then we don't get that a lot. I mean, I don't know how many times you can look back in Minnesota history and look at just a lucky. I call it lucky. I mean, that's just the fact that Lattimore missed that tackle and him having a great season like he did, I mean, it was a miracle. That's the only words you can use to describe it.
I can think of one right now, and that's that Randy Moss lateral on about the 10-yard line.
That was
that's the one that comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
All right, Donovan, so going off of that, I want you to leave all thoughts, feelings, biases aside.
If you can.
If you can. We understand that Minnesota's going to make a decent playoff push, and they could potentially make it to the big game, the big show. But who in your opinion, who's the most favorable in your mind to win the Super Bowl?
I'd have to say the Steelers. Are my top three. So I feel like the Patriots. I mean, they're always gonna make a run. Tom Brady. I'm pretty sure. I mean, he hasn't said it yet, but I'm pretty sure this is gonna be his last year. And I'm pretty sure he's gonna play his heart out to make it back to the Super Bowl.
Touchdown Tommy.
But I feel like the Steelers, they have what it takes to make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, they got that wide receiver duo. They just re-signed the running back for what I think is too much money. But they re-signed him, and then Ben Roethlisberger, he's getting up there in age. I just feel like they're – I mean, not a lot of people are people are talking about them, but they're not one of the big hype. I mean, I'm hearing more about the Rams, the Patriots, Eagles.
I got the Rams going all the way. We had talked about that, and I think Tyson had – the Cowboys, right?
Yep.
Cowboys winning it all.
That's my professional unbiased opinion.
But I like the Steelers. They have the weapons, and I feel like they deserve another one. So yeah, my favorite Steelers.
Even after Big Ben's performance in the divisional round against Jacksonville, you think he'll be able to bounce back from that?
Oh yeah, I mean he's a professional. He's a veteran. I mean he's been around a long time. He knows how to adapt. I feel like yeah. I don't feel like he's been doing this for so long. He's not one to look back on the past and keep that in the back of his mind. He's after that game, he was already looking forward. I guarantee it.
Fair enough.
He's an old man. I think if he's sure about it, he ain't gonna do that again or look back at it. He's just gonna look forward and look at his team and take them where they need to go.
So, do you think that we could have a Steelers-Vikings Super Bowl in the future?
Unbiased, yeah.
Unbiased.
Yeah.
Donovan, you've mentioned that you think the Vikings would probably have a good shot at the Super Bowl. Who else in the NFC? I know you said the Rams, you hear a bit about them. So I guess who else besides the Vikings do you see having a shot on the NFC side?
Like you said, the Rams. They have a great team. The Saints, for sure. Saints, they have all the weapons they had last year. Especially, Drew Brees. He's like I said, he's an awesome quarterback. There was kind of some rumors there for a little bit right as soon as the offseason started that the Vikings were looking at Drew Brees because they didn't know if the Saints were going to re-sign him or not. And I know they were kind of looking his way a little bit. I don't know if that was actually true, but that's what the rumors were. But he's a great quarterback. Their running back duos. I think the Saints, above all else, are going to have the best chance in the NFC.
I think people forget because they lost to the Vikings on that miracle play that they would have been in the championship game against Philly and probably had a decent shot to beat the Eagles and go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I think anyone in the NFC would have had a great chance, whether it be the Rams, the Saints, or the Vikings. To be honest, the Vikings just played their worst game of the season last year, and it just so happened to be against the Eagles, the game that counted the most. They decided to play their worst game all year long. But I feel like the Saints easily would have won that game. So everyone looks down the Saints because they lost that game, but really that game was anyone's game. It was probably more likely their game with leading in the last 10 seconds. But I think Saints are my second top. They're my number two for NFC.
All right, absolutely.
So you heard my prediction. I said either the Cowboys or the Rams are my picks for the Super Bowl in the NFC. You think I'm crazy on the Cowboys pick? Do you got any opinions on that, or what do you think?
To be honest, Cowboys. I don't know. They have an awesome offensive line. A quarterback, he's good. The running back is phenomenal if he can stay out of trouble and not miss any games. I don't know. I guess I'm not a very big Cowboys fan. So I'm just being biased on that. I haven't really looked at them. They're not really on my radar. But so yeah, I can see you crazy for the Cowboys. Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
I'll take that. At least you didn't call me a crazy old kook.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Donovan, we really appreciate you coming on the show today, man. Really appreciate the insight. We'll definitely be checking in on the Vikings more throughout the season. Hopefully you'll be able to come back on.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Have a good day, man.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Well, with that said, we're going to go ahead and move on here. Away from football, we need to talk about some baseball and finish up like we always do. The MLB. This team we were talking about the past week and a half, the Pittsburgh Pirates are finally starting to cool off. And speaking of another team in that division, the St. Louis Cardinals, they're starting to heat up, and they just took third place away from Pittsburgh in that division. Now 6.5 games back of Chicago. Cale, I want to ask you this. Is it too late for the Cardinals to make that playoff push?
Is it too late for the Cardinals? No. Is it too late for Pittsburgh? Yes. Pittsburgh 7.5 out of first. Cardinals only 6.5. With the way that the Cubs are playing right now, anything's possible. We still got the rest of this month and all of September to go. The fact that the Cubs right now, I'm going to go off of this real quick. They're just struggling to get some run production right now, and I'm not sure what it is. It's something in the water up there up north, or just I don't get it. I just don't understand why they're not scoring runs. But back to the original question, St. Louis. They're only 5.5 back from the Brewers right now. They're actually in a pretty decent spot because I watched a little bit of the game yesterday. I've been preaching about this all year. The young pitching core that the Cardinals have, they have the best young pitching core in the league, in my opinion, and they need to keep it that way. They need to keep those guys on, starting with Flaherty, Michaelis. They need to keep all of those guys, and all the way down to Weaver, Wadka, Hudson, everybody. These are guys that me and Tyson can't sit here, okay, well, we know everything about them because a lot of them are second and third years, So starting with their pitching core, that's where they need to keep it. They got that started. They need to base it around the rest of the team around the pitching staff. But they're only 4 games out of the wild card race right now. So with that young of a pitching core who can go 7 or 8 innings all season, that's a pretty decent, reason to keep playing with heart, keep yourself in contention. They don't have that bad of an offense. They just make they have some mental lapses throughout the game. They don't handle situations correctly. But getting Mike Matheny out of there is a good start. I've been saying that since he got fired. It's a good start to get him out. And now the next problem is if they don't get into the playoffs this year, or even the wild card, I feel like John Mozeliak's going to be the next person to go.
Oh, yeah. At St. Louis, we talked about it last week a little bit. They basically replaced their whole bullpen. They brought up everybody from AAA to come up here and help them out with the pitching. So they're pitching young, great. They can go long innings. Those starters can. And then their new set of relievers come in and they just keep destroying. So they have been having a good couple weeks here. They performed well against the Rockies, who have been hot for the last several weeks now. They're the reason the Rockies have cooled off a little bit. The Rockies are now 2.5 out of the wild card. They were 2 back, or 1.5 last time we looked. But they're 2.5 now, so they didn't drop too hard. But the Cardinals did move up. They're only 4.5 back as opposed to 7, I think they were. Now I don't see the Cardinals making a push, like Cale said, against the Cubs. I think the Cubs are playing well enough that they're just going to maintain the lead. They're not playing super great right now. Not putting up as many runs as we'd like. They're still putting up 3-4 a night, but sometimes with our pitching, that's just not getting it done. So I see the Cardinals. They're making a really good push. I don't think Pittsburgh's slump will continue. It's not really even a slump. They're still 6-10. Oh no, they're 4-6 in their last 10. They had, since they played the Cubs, they lost 2 of 3 against the Cubs, and they've struggled a little bit since then. I think they'll refine that groove they were in, and at this point, I don't see them making it back to that wild card race, but I think they'll make a push for it. It was kind of interesting to see St. Louis pick up and Pittsburgh drop because usually it's backwards from that.
Well, no, real quick, let me say this. One reason that I think that they will make this push is because of one guy, and that's Matt Carpenter. This is a guy that we've been talking about the past couple of weeks. He's been on fire. In the last 30 days, he's got 13 home runs, 22 RBIs, and he's batting at .356. So if he can continue this play, and then like you said, they've improved the pitching tremendously, complete 180 from what they've been doing, I don't see why they couldn't make it.
The only thing that I'm going to go off against you on this is, yes, Matt Carpenter's on fire. He's tore every team up and every pitcher up that he's seen this season. He's just having a miraculous year, and it happens. But in order for the Cardinals to, I feel like this is going to happen, excuse me, that to make a playoff push, they're going to need guys like Paul DeYoung. They're going to need, Harrison Bader, Munoz, everybody to heat up at the plate, not just Carpenter. The reason why you make playoff pushes is with superior pitching, superior bullpens, and guys who can hit the ball and put the ball in play. They've got 4 or 5 guys in their starting lineup that can do that. So, with me personally, as much as I don't like St. Louis, it's St. Louis sports at all, I am not going to sit here and count them out of the wild card race. That's just me being a baseball fan. Because in baseball, Tyson and I've seen it, takes funny turns. So anybody can heat up. It just doesn't matter when. All it matters is if they heat up at the right time. And I feel like that these young guys are going to heat up at the right time.
Well, with that said, let's stick with the Cardinals for one more thing. Dexter Fowler's out for the next 4 weeks with a broken foot. He's struggled earlier in the season, and the Cardinals did pretty well without him. Will that string continue with him out for the next month?
Yeah, like you said, he struggled. It was more than a struggle at the beginning of the season. He's been awful, more or less.
Let's just be blunt about it, right?
Right. Yeah. Just to put it out there, he was awful at the beginning of the season. Couldn't hit the ball. Was making errors on defense that he doesn't make. He has had a very off season. He's since picked it up since all the stuff came out with the front office, and he had his child and kind of came back and defended himself, and he's played a little bit better since then. But he by no means has he turned it around. So without him, I don't really think they're losing a whole lot right now at this particular moment. Come playoff time, I think it would be great to have him back, have championship experience from that guy. But right now, as far as trying to make it to the playoffs and make a run, I don't think it's going to hurt to lose him too much.
No, they're getting that bat out of the lineup. In my opinion, Dexter Fowler has no business being in their lineup right now. He's doing more damage than he is positive. So that being said, he is going to end up having to have surgery on that. They did come out the other day, or it was yesterday, I believe. He is going to have surgery, so he's going to be out indefinitely. Not a bad situation for the Cardinals because they've got Jose Martinez, Martinez over there at first. That can hit the ball better than Fowler is doing right now. Now, is he a situational hitter like Fowler is? Absolutely not. He is a power hitter, and he can hit for power. He can swing the bat hard. He's got a long, smooth swing, and he's got a lot of movement in there, and he's got a high leg kick. Guys with high leg kicks, you look at Bryce Harper and Anthony Rizzo, 2 bombers. Anybody that's got a high leg kick like that with his body size is going to be able to hit the ball out of the park. So with Martinez back over there, they'll be all right. Who's going to replace him is my question. You got Bader, and you don't have Pham anymore because Pham went to the Rays, right. Which Pham was also being more of a detriment than a help in that lineup. My concern for the Cardinals is who's going to replace Fowler. You still got his leadership on the bench, but you don't have his leadership on the field, which we're not getting much of this season, but it's there. We know it's there. We've seen it as Cubs fans.
Well, speaking of the Cubs, let's go ahead and move on to this. They're playing pretty subpar right now. They're not playing like the best team in the NL as of late. Coming off a pretty disappointing series against the San Diego Padres.
Disappointing?
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to be polite about it. Let's put it that way. The Phillies and the Brewers are closing the gap pretty quick here for the 1 seed. They're only 1 game back, both of them. Just want to know, what are you guys' thoughts, Tyson? Let me start with you on Chicago, and what's been their issue? What can they do to kind of widen the gap more going down the stretch here?
Quit playing the last teams in every division. Other than that, they didn't play well against Pittsburgh, who had a hot run. They shut down Pittsburgh's hot run. They didn't play awful against the Cardinals, but those are 2 tough teams that are trying to make a run right now. So I don't necessarily count that against them. But the Padres series was just awful, and we've seen that all year. The last time we played the Padres, I think we lost a series with them. We got swept by the Reds and lost a series against the Reds. As long as we can quit playing these last teams in the NL divisions, we'll be okay, which I don't think we have to play the Padres again or Cincinnati again until later on, and then I don't think we play Miami. So we should be in all right shape. So I don't see the trend continuing with the Cubs. I think they'll widen that gap again. We had a good stint a couple weeks ago putting up 7, 12, 15 runs in games. The last couple weeks now, it's been 3, 4, 5, 6 runs a game, which sometimes it's gotten it done, sometimes it hasn't. I see the run production picking back up. We saw Hamels win his first game with the Cubs. Had a good first start with him. 5 innings.
A good start. I'd say it was an incredible start. Probably the best start that you could have asked for out of him.
5 innings, no earned runs, 1 unearned, but that's not his fault. And he threw 95 pitches. If he can get a couple more outs, which he only gave up 3 hits, but if he can keep his pitch count down in batter for each batter, he can go 6, 7 innings, no problem, which is what we need. I think he also provides a spark for the rest of the pitching core, helps them pitch a little bit better. But I think with the addition of him, how he pitched, that adds another win every week with him on the roster. So I don't see the trend continuing of them going even or down. They can only go up from here.
I'm gonna agree right with you. I'm right there with you. I agree 100%. Against the NL West, in the NL West, the Padres are 2-8 in their last 10. 2 of those wins just so happen to come against the best team, or supposedly the best team in the National League, which we are. I'm not going to say that we are. We're just not playing like it right now. But that being said, we go up to the top of the division, the NL West. You got Arizona. We took 2 of 4 against them. So that being said, right there, you're right. We can beat good teams. It's just these lower tier teams. I don't get it. I just don't understand why we can't beat them. They're free games, essentially is what it is.
Yeah, I think it might be the Cubs playing down to the level of their competition.
They don't want the free ones. They want to make it hard.
Right. They don't want to play against teams that they expect to beat. And, of course, in baseball especially, you can't expect to beat anyone in any sport for that matter. But let me finish off with this is the Phillies. What do you – because we all know the Brewers, and we expect them to fall off pretty quick here. They're just kind of lingering around longer than we're used to. But the Phillies, what chance do you give them to actually take over that top seed in the National League, if any chance at all?
If the Cubs keep playing like they are right now, and they don't turn it around in the next week or two, there's no chance that the Cubs will be in first any longer. That'll definitely be Philadelphia. I called this at the beginning of the year when I saw Philadelphia's roster. I had the Cubs and the Phillies playing for the NLDS. They're strong, both of them are, but right now, going off of that, Philly's stronger. There's no doubt about it, as of right now. But the Cubs aren't swinging the bats. Like Tyson said, they're only scoring 3 to 4 runs a game as opposed to that 12. We're not hurting pitching. Chris Bryant's on the bench. That's kind of hurting a little bit. But at the same time, we haven't gotten that much production out of the Brizzo souvenir core, other than Rizzo's starting to swing the bat a little more this last couple of weeks. But the Javi Baez Entertainment Company is wide open for business.
Yep.
So that's a good thing. We got somebody on the offensive side of the ball, producing runs, hitting home runs, hitting RBIs, everything. But Philadelphia has 8 guys that can do that right now. So that being said, if the Cubs don't just completely flip the switch and play better baseball than they are currently, I don't see a reason why Philly can't, make a push to the NLCS.
Phillies had a really good week. They're 6-4 in their last 10, but they've won 5 straight. They're on a hot streak right now. Now we haven't seen very many streaks go very long so far this year, except for all Boston's streaks that they've put together. I think Atlanta had a 12-game run in there.
Pittsburgh also had a 12-game.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh had a 12-game. So I don't see Philly's win streak lasting too much longer. I think they'll kind of level out, start the 6-4 for each 10 or 7-3 for each 10. I still think they're above average. They're not going to start going 5-5, 4-6 in each 10 games and whatnot. But I think they'll lose a couple here soon, and that win streak take them back down to earth a little bit. I think they've got a decent shot at taking over the number 1 spot. But if the Cubs have anything to say about it, even just a little pipsqueak, it's not going to happen. There's only 1 game separation right now, which isn't a whole lot. But I think these two will kind of fight it out till the end. Both of them are going to keep going 6-4, 7-3 in their 10 games that we can see. And I think they'll fight it out to the end. And I fully believe Philly will win that division. Oh, yeah. We said that last week when we were picking our division winners and whatnot. I fully believe Philly will win that division, but as far as taking over the NL, I'm not so sure yet.
Well, and I think we see that with them getting the separation. I think it's 2 games now between them and Atlanta, or if it's not a game and a half.
One and a half.
1.5. It was down to a half a game, and then at one point they were tied. So we're seeing them starting to widen the gap a little bit more here. But let's move on to the American League here. I'm just going to start calling them Cale Fleming's A's because, I mean, we talk about Oakland every single time we come on the show here. They've now completely taken over that wild card spot from the Mariners. But the interesting thing for me that I saw this morning was they're only 4 games behind the Houston Astros for top spot in the AL West. Not to mention they're only 2.5 games behind the Yankees for the 4 seed and getting home field advantage in the wild card game. Is it time for people to start giving the A's more respect than they've been getting throughout the season? Because I know that I've done my fair share of ripping on them because I thought that they were a bunch of misfits playing together and they were just winning a couple games here and there. These guys look for real, and I know it's the American League, but with this kind of production, Cale, let me start with you because this is the team that you've been talking about the past few weeks. Should people just start respecting Oakland?
Misfits is the right word. That's a bunch of misfits. There's a bunch of guys on this team that shouldn't be winning like they are, but they just keep doing it, and that's a good thing because I like these underdog stories like this. That being said, they're only 4 games behind Houston. Houston is by far the second best team in the National or American League, but the fact of the matter is after last night, that Boston-New York Yankees game, Oakland's going to have that first wild card spot sealed up in about 3 weeks.
Okay.
After that performance, look at it this way, Tyson. That performance last night took all the wind out of the Yankees' sails. I mean, they had Sunday night. They had the game going in. They had it. Well, they were down 1-0. They ended up going 4-1, and they blew it. They had that. So that being said, I just honestly feel like that the A's are now going to make a push and take that first playoff or that first wild card spot from the Yankees, and that they're going to push the Yankees down into second. Now, are they going to catch Houston? No, they're not going to catch Houston. Are they good enough to play against Houston? Absolutely. They can keep up and can hang in there with them because they got the confidence rolling right now. But I just feel like that the Yankees are going to be kind of upset here in about the next 2-3 weeks.
I think, it was a gut shot watching that Yankees game last night. And I don't like the Yankees at all.
I don't either.
But they had already lost the 3 games prior to that to the Red Sox. Now, blowing a close game to the best team, I don't think they're going to read too much into that, especially they had already lost the 3 previous. So I don't think losing another one to the Red Sox is going to hurt their mentality that much. It was interesting to see they only have a 2.5 game lead on that 4 spot now, like you were saying. But I don't see it increasing and I don't see it decreasing. I think they'll kind of float through the rest of the season, and I think Oakland will kind of float right along there with them. We had both picked New York and Oakland to stay in those wild card spots. I was surprised to see Seattle fall out this quickly.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to put up more of a fight.
Hey, listen, I know I don't watch a lot of baseball. That's something that I could have called, and I did call, is they did nothing to address the pitching situation.
Right,
and I
absolutely.
said, as soon as the deadline was over, they're going to drop off, and it's going to happen quick. So.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because it did, and then there's no coming back from it. They're 2.5 games back from Oakland now, who hasn't really done anything different than what they've been doing the last couple of weeks. But Seattle just
the difference
dropped.
between Oakland and Seattle was Oakland addressed the problems they had, and now they're competing. Seattle ignored the problems they had and didn't address it, and now they've dropped off. They've gotten exactly what they deserve because they stood pat and didn't make any moves. And that's what happens. If you don't address the issues, how can you expect to get better? If guys haven't stepped up all year, you can't expect them to just flip the switch. This is not the NBA. This is not the NFL. It's not how it works. But
no, you get into in the MLB, you get into grooves and you stay into grooves. Look at Anthony Rizzo, for instance. We just talked about it. Anthony Rizzo this season, he's been in a slump all year. Started off in a slump, and he's still in it. He's picking back up out of it, but look how hard it is with a guy of Rizzo's talent to get out of this slump. One thing I want to say, though, is that Oakland has the Dodgers starting tomorrow. They're off today, but they have the Dodgers tomorrow. And if I can watch that game tomorrow night, I am more than likely going to watch that game because if Oakland can beat the Dodgers, then I've got more than enough hope that the Cubs can beat them too.
Well, and this is the interesting thing. This is a good segue into my last point here. Is the Diamondbacks have the tiebreaker with the Dodgers right now. They're sitting at first. If Oakland can take the series from L.A. and Arizona continues to keep winning, there's a chance that the Dodgers may not even make the playoffs if they don't win their division.
Correct.
So
that's 100% correct. Although I will say this with Arizona, they did drop against San Francisco last night 2-3. That was kind of a tough loss for them.
Well, San Francisco, they're a team that's more than likely out right now, but they think that they can still make a run.
Absolutely.
So
the only issue with San Francisco is that they're 5.5 out of the wild card. They're not going to make a push. They just didn't make the right moves. They're trying. You ever get the feeling that San Francisco is trying to keep it like they did in 2013 and try to keep the same roster with all them old guys? It's just not going to work. But that being said, no, Arizona. This will be a factor for the Dodgers. If they beat these guys, they take the series, 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3, whatever. If they take a game or two, then I'm still not going to be that unconfident about the Dodgers beating Arizona in the race. But if they lose all 3, or they drop, how many ever, if they drop all 3, I'll say that. If they drop all 3 against the Oakland A's, then they're not going to be able to beat Arizona. And then the Dodgers are once again just back in this false pattern of hope that they just can't get there, man.
After being the team that struck out or did make the move for Manny Machado, who was the hottest free agent at the time.
Not only did they get Machado, they got Dozier, who's known
made
for
all the moves.
He's known for heating up in the second half of the year. So they've got the people. They just can't get it done.
Yeah, Arizona. We all picked Arizona to kind of fall out a little bit.
Yep.
I had LA winning, Colorado getting the wild card spot. So it's surprising to see Arizona up in here. They've played well all year. They haven't done anything that makes me absolutely think they're just going to crap out. But I think they would definitely slow down a little bit, and they actually picked up in the last week. Now that being said, they only won 6 and they were 6-4 in their last 10. But the only reason they're doing so well is because LA and Colorado are both 5-5 in their last 10, and they just haven't been playing well recently. I see that reversing. I can see LA picking it back up. But like Cale said, we'll have to see how this next series goes.
Right. One last thing to add is I think all 3 of these teams in that West NL division have had some tough series the past couple weeks, and I think that's why they've been so stagnant, so to speak. But no, it's definitely going to be interesting. Well, we got about 7 weeks left of baseball, and, when the dust settles, we'll see who's left standing, and for the next 7 weeks, it's definitely going to be interesting. But with that said, I think that's all we have for today. Quick shout-out again. Thanks to Donovan Fennell for coming on again. We really appreciate his input on the Vikings and the whole NFC there. But with that said, that's all we have today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please go ahead and leave us a rating or a comment in the box below. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you don't miss a beat, and then hit that bell icon right next to it so you can turn on notifications. With that said, also make sure to follow us on our social media at twin_city? City sports_twin. There we go. Sports_twin. Check us out on Twitter. And my name is Gavin Campbell. That was Tyson Snyder. That's Cale Fleming. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Based upon the view, you can't have too much trouble. So why can't we do it? Everybody's doing it. Let's strike the fireworks, stand back and enjoy it. Bombs away, down the consequence.